Good evening to everyone. I'm Mahavir here with overseeing public relations. Very happy to welcome you all to late Pushkarji and late Omprakashji Tibrewala Oration 2025. I'll like to invite Dr. Prasad Garg, Executive Chairman, to give us welcome address and take forward and share with us LVPI and updates on that.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to Late Shri Pushkarlalji Omprakashji Tibrewala 2025 Oration. At our institute, right from very early days, our founding chairman, Dr. G.N. Rao, took a decision that we will conduct few of the public oriented lectures that allows people to also know what is happening in the field of eye care and what are different initiatives that organizations are taking to eliminate needless vision impairment and blindness. We were very fortunate that right from the beginning, lot of philanthropists came forward and said and took the responsibility of funding for those lectures. And today we are having one such series of lectures which is primarily focused around cornea related blindness, eye banking, and the programs that we conduct for elimination of cornea blindness. So I am very thankful to the Tibrewala family for coming forward and taking the responsibility and facilitating, partnering with us for this lecture. LV Prasad Eye Institute is a not-for-profit organization working in the field of tackling needless vision impairment and blindness. We are now almost 38-year-old organization and today present in 311 locations, primarily in 3 states, the state of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha, and we have a small presence in Karnataka. We work through 10 functional arms, so we are not just a clinical care facility but are very actively engaged in basic science, clinical science, and public health research, education of all cadre of eye care personnel, capacity building of other eye care organizations, rehabilitation of those suffering with irreversible vision loss, community health, technology innovation, product development, advocacy, and policy planning. So you can understand that the spectrum of activities is very wide, and we take care of the entire spectrum of eye care, from promotion of eye health to treatment of most complex eye diseases, including rehabilitation of those suffering with irreversible vision loss. Today, being one of the leading organizations in the field of eye care, there is a great responsibility on our shoulder. The responsibility that our activities have to ensure that the standards of or the quality of eye care continue to become better and better over a period of time, and our society at least get benefited through reduction in preventable or avoidable vision loss and blindness. People should know about what is happening in the field of eye care and also what the institute is doing. And therefore, such lecture series are very important and integral part of our activities. In addition, we do lot of other public awareness activities in our organization just to keep everybody informed of what is the change that we are working to make and what are things happening in and around in the area of eye care and prevention of blindness. We are very fortunate that today we have someone who is not just a dear friend but a very renowned cornea specialist and is part of one of the other leading eye care organization, that is Aravind Eye Care System. And I like to welcome Dr. Venkatesh Prajna and would like to thank him for sparing time from his busy schedule and agreeing to deliver this lecture. With that, once again, I would like to thank members of Tibrewala family who are in our audience and would like to welcome all of you to this public lecture series. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. PG, for alluding on Prasad Institute and the responsibility it adds on our shoulders. I'm here to give a brief intro on the family who instituted the award. I have not met Shri Omprakashji, but I've heard that he was very quite dynamic personality. He was a treasurer with under the Chief Minister N.T. Rama Rao, and he was also president for now as it is known as FTCCI, Federation for Telangana Chamber of Commerce. He also led a lot of commerce team to various countries to promote Andhra and Telangana trade and business. He also was quite active in philanthropy, and he was a president for Lions Club of Hyderabad, and during his chairmanship, presidentship, he supported many of the schools and supported 3 eye hospitals, and showing gratitude to the legacy shared by his father, late Pushkarlalji. He named this award on his father. We are very privileged to have the family members join us today. I'll request if Abhishek, who's the great-grandson of Pushkarlalji and grandson of Omprakashji, I'll invite Abhishek ji to come and share a few words before we present the award. Can I request you to please join on the podium?
Yes, thank you, Abhishek. So good evening, everyone. I once again welcome everyone. I would not say lecture, with your permission, I would say knowledge sharing program with the society. This gives me a lot of privilege to be here. I would remember my grandfather when we used to come to LV Prasad, when we used to meet Dr. Rao and Dr. Garg. I used to be like, Bhai, what's this? Why are we giving so much? What is the point? There are so many other institutes. I still remember it very clearly. He used to tell me the most transparent institute I have ever come across is LV Prasad. And I still remember that very well. And that's the reason we are here, sir. Thanks for giving us this opportunity. With a part of legacy, what I've inherited from him, I continue doing the same causes. It's not only at LV Prasad, but we continue. It's also at other institutes what we are supporting. I head OP Tibrewala Foundation. We also make sure that every month a lot of charity is done. In continuation to his vision, what I have inherited, at Roundtable India. I'm active, and in Roundtable India, I've taken a sankalp of 1 lakh students being scanned and being operated. We had spoke, Mr. Mahavir, we had spoke on this. So we have already started this, and as we speak, already 2,000 students have been diagnosed, and free specs has been given to them. So whatever chance I've been blessed by him, he's my guiding star. Whatever I've been blessed, I'm trying to continue the legacy. And with your support, if wherever OP Tibrewala Foundation can step forward and contribute, we would love to do it. Thanks for giving the opportunity. We shall continue supporting. Thank you.
Very inspiring sharing, Tibrewala ji. And I know few times for Whiteathon and all, I would call him and he would just straight away say, send me the bank details. So very happy to have people like that who are constantly wanting to make a difference in the society. I also like to invite right now Dr. Praveen to share about the awardee today.
Thanks, Mahavir. Thanks, Abhishek ji, for gracing the occasion, as well as the Tibrewala family and all friends and colleagues too. So often when you are asked to introduce the speaker for the evening, it is usually someone you don't know very well. And it is quite rare to have the honor of introducing someone who I have gotten to know very well over the last several years. I've also gotten to admire over the last several years, and who I also consider a mentor and a friend as well. In the beginning of most of our careers, the way in which we would know the speaker for today is through his work and not through him as a person. So there was these series of clinical trials that were published and everybody was talking about, and they had these unique names called MUT and SCUT, all about infections of the eye and how different medicines should be used as well. So this was very captivating because the names were also very different from what we heard, the methodology of these studies and the way they were conducted. And these were studies that were quoted not just by Indian authors, but across the world when you went to conferences as well. So in many ways, we learned about Dr. Prajna from the international community first, before we got to know him personally. And I think that says a lot for the stature of an individual. For me personally, I was never into corneal infections, so I never knew much about the intricacies of corneal infections. But then I think curiosity led us to ensure that we all read his work before we got to meet him. I think from the perspective of not just a specialist in infections, but also a person who is deeply committed to medical education, especially residency teaching, I think most medical residents across the country would know him better than most other cornea specialists at this point of time. And I think one of the most impressive things that I've learned about Dr. Prajna is the fact that he actually allocates time every day to meet some of his residents and fellows and considers that one of the most important parts of his day. I think very few people who have such busy schedules will be able to allocate and commit so much of time to the future of the organization or of ophthalmology as well. So it is my proud privilege to welcome and to introduce Dr. N Venkatesh Prajna, the speaker for today evening, a gentleman and a man of many facets, as you will see very soon. Welcome, sir.
I'll request Dr. PG, Dr. Mr. Abhishek Tibrewala to please come on the stage. We'll facilitate Dr. Prajna with the award before we get to hear the captivating presentation from him, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of Q&A. All yours to deliver the late Pushkarlalji and Omprakashji Tibrewala Award to you, sir.
Good evening, and thank you, Mahavir, for making all my arrangements in a very, very quick notice. Today is a very, very special day for me. I have come to this auditorium as a student. I have come rushing into the class at 7 a.m. in the morning, never ever been locked out. So I completely understand the ethos of this organization, and I'm really, really proud and privileged to be in this esteemed organization today. At the outset, I would like to pay my respectful tributes to the Tibrewala family, Shri Pushkarlalji, who was a distinguished industrialist and philanthropist, and remembered for his generosity and commitment to the welfare of the society. And that is how the generations flourish and they leave a legacy, so that then it continues. And then with Omprakashji, he again had interests in industry, housing, and construction, and helped set up 3 eye care centers in and around Hyderabad. I'm also given to understand that he facilitated the marriages of people with vision impairment. Now, that is something which we should all be proud about. And today we heard that the family continues the tradition of active philanthropy, being ready to support causes. And once again, I would like to thank you, sir, for instituting your family, for instituting this award, so that all of us can come and share our insights. It's also a very special moment for me, for having some people in the audience who know me in many facets. In fact, I have one of my people talked about my postgraduate residency. I have one of my postgraduate residents sitting in the front row, who's now your head of your glaucoma unit here. So she was one time my resident. But today I'm very, very, very fortunate to have Dr. Gullapalli Rao sitting in the front row. Dr. Gullapalli Rao has seen me as a child, has seen me as a student. My mother was 3 years his senior in school, and they went to school together in Chennai. I have a very nice photograph of my mother pushing Dr. Rao in a tricycle in Chennai, and that is how much long the relationship is there. And the other thing is, I've gotten many such awards, and one of the most prestigious award I have got is the Dr. G. N. Rao Oration Award at the AOS in Calcutta 2 years back. And again, Dr. Rao was gracious enough to be there in the front row to hear out my talk in Calcutta, for which I would ever be very, very grateful. We are learning from you, sir. And he has also made another promise to my family. And he has promised that, he reminded me of that promise that he promised my father, my late father, that he would find a nice Telugu bride for my son. And that is the only thing remaining for Dr. Rao to do for me and my family. So I don't think you've ever had such kind of descriptions about Dr. Rao. Driving a cycle, finding a bride, and that kind of thing. So I think that itself, because this is supposed to be a public lecture, right? This is not supposed to be a scientific lecture. So you need to know the other soft skills. I'm also very fortunate to have my sister-in-law, Radha Nalakrishnan, who is also the granddaughter of Sri L.V. Prasad. Many of you don't know that connection, that L.V. Prasad, sir, is also related to us. And this connection is cemented by my cousin marrying Radha. And Radha is in Chicago, and she happened to be in Hyderabad. And so I'm very, very thankful to you as part of the L.V. Prasad family to have come and stayed here. Again, I see in this audience Prema Madam, Namrata, and all other people who have given me every bit of support in my career, giving me opportunities for growth and also for facilitating my interests in research through collaborations. So I want you to see this slide, and I'll come back to this slide at the last of my presentation. Just see through this and keep it in your mind, and we'll come back to the last of these presentations. So, as I see it, research should have many R's in them. First of all, research should be right, it should be relevant, it should be rigorous. You cannot do something and then publish for the AOS immediately and then call it as a research. You may do it a case study or something, but I would be actually sharing the importance of doing quality research. It should be recordable, and more importantly, it should be reproducible. And if it follows all these things, all the scientific rigor, then you have the power to influence not only your colleagues within the country, you have the power to influence the treatment paradigm shift across the world. Once again, very, very grateful to Praveen for inviting me first, and also making a mention that he came to know of me after my international publications. And for the first 10 years of my career, I did not publish anything. So that doesn't mean that you should not do it, but I'm just saying, buy your time, pace yourself, plan it well, and execute. So that should be your thing. You need to take it in your career as you start your career. Before I actually talk today, I want to talk about a very important concept called chance. It's all about eliminating chance. If you want your research to be understood well, if you want your research to be followed up by other people, you have to eliminate chance. And what is chance? It can be something very, very, very infrequent. For example, we all know that lightning never strikes the same place twice. The chance of you getting hit in a lightning is around 1 in 15,300. How about being hit by lightning for the second time in your life? The chance is 1 in 9 million. Very, very, very remote chance. And I'll tell you about a very true story about this gentleman, Major Walter Summerford, who actually was actually fighting in World War I in Belgium when he was struck by lightning in 1918. After he survived that, and more importantly, he survived the war, and then went and settled in Canada. In Canada, when he was just strolling, not fighting against anybody, when he was just walking on the lakes of Canada, he was hit by the second hit of lightning. That was in 1924. And then 6 years later, when he was walking on a park in Canada, again lightning struck. So this is chance. You can call it chance, but you have to keep everything in your mind, however remote it may be, because when you are publishing, you are actually telling the world that this is what I have found and this is what I would like you to follow. And it better be as straight and as clear and as correct as possible. 1932, at least he was very content after being hit 3 times. He didn't die of lightning hit. So he died of a natural cause, and he was buried in Vancouver, Canada. In 1936, lightning struck his gravestone. And for people who wouldn't want to believe this, you can go back to your room and you can Google it, and this is what can happen in certain circumstances. So you just need to keep all this in mind before even you consider research and publishing in research. So, as I told you, in the first 5 or 6 years of my life, of my consultant life, I didn't know what I was going to do. planning to be a cornea person. But then after 8 years following my consultancy, then I joined cornea. Joined pretty late. And then I wanted to see, what is the area of interest in which I can focus my interests on. As I told you, the first R has to be right and relevant. And what more relevance? I come from an agricultural family, and I see a lot of these patients in my clinic every day, infectious keratitis, in patients who don't actually wear protective eyewear. And this is something of a passion. All these years I have nurtured these passions. And this was what was the 2 R's about which I wanted you to focus on. And then these are all my publications in the clinical arena. I started late. So if you start 9 or 10 years late, then only you will have 100 publications. So be very, very careful when you pace yourself. That's the word I used, pace yourself. And you see spectrum from epidemiology to confocal studies to clinical features. And I've included only international publications here. Economic impacts, quality of life, risk factors, gender difference, economic impact as late as 2025. In fact, last 2025 data I have not included. And not only that, in basic science as well. So once you start late, it's not a problem. But as long as you're focused, as long as you have a problem where you really think you want to make a big difference, and then you get wedded to an idea, and you, from the beginning, you get involved in doing very rigorous research. I used to be, when somebody used to tell me a simple question, I used to give a very simple answer before I did all these publications. Now I'm very, very careful. I'll just give you one thing. Now I always say it depends. It depends. Somebody asks you, are you intelligent? I say it depends. Because if I consider, if I compare myself to a 10th class boy, I may be intelligent. But if I compare myself to Einstein, I might not be intelligent. So that is what the whole world is full of relative facts. And one of the things in research is you cannot be absolutely certain, but you can just work towards that path where you want to eliminate the power of chance. So those are the things you need to keep in mind. Today in all my publications, I have selected 2 publications, both of which is getting published in 2025. One is role of cross-linking as an adjuvant therapy for bacterial keratitis, and role of rose bengal activated photodynamic antimicrobial therapy for fungal keratitis. I assure the Tibrewala family that it will not be too much science. You might have to bear with me for some numbers, but we will come to the conclusion soon, which by the way it's much more interesting. What about bacterial keratitis? We know that there is a rationale for using an adjuvant treatment because we know some of the time that ulcers won't heal. You need some other treatment to combine with your conventional treatment to make an impact. You just see the path of how things, when something comes new, how does it start? It starts like this. A lot of case reports start appearing in literature suddenly. And one person starts it, and then it gets followed up by isolated case reports. And then the other person says, oh, he did it in 1 case, let me do it in 5 cases and call it as a case series. And then see this paper, very interesting paper, went to a level where they said, you don't even need to use adjuvant antibiotics. Just use light and every ulcer will be healed. So this was actually published in Griffiths Ophthalmology. So this is how the trend, and I'll show you many such trends. So you have to, when you read something, you have to read with caution. That's what we want to this thing. So what they did was, over a period of next 2 or 3 years, what happened was they said, okay, we think it is working. Initially they said it is working. Then they said you don't even need antibiotics. Then they go to the next phase of we think it is working, but it's better to do a randomized control trial. And that is what we did on 280 patients. We randomized them into 3 groups. Every group got antibiotics, because if you don't give antibiotics, you might get a very rigorous research, but it is not good for the patient. So that part you have to really keep it in mind. The patient should be the center of focus. Just because we want a publication, we cannot harm the patient, and that should be one of the important things you keep in mind before you actually do a research. 3 groups, simply one with steroids, one with placebo, and one with cross-linking. And what did it found? No significant difference. And this was just published this year. That is, just because you use light or just because you use steroids, there was no difference with regard to visual acuity. And in fact, if you use cross-linking, there is a mild increase in scar size. But come to this slide, and this is where you need to keep your focus. See, one of the thing, what is the end point? When you read a paper, you should not just read the conclusion. Usually we read the aim and the conclusion. But the most important thing you should look at it is the method section. The results, the discussion or the conclusion which is being given is pertaining to the inclusion criteria, to the exclusion criteria which is there in the methodology section. So here what it says is, if you use cross-linking and steroid, the chance of perforation is slightly less. But then I cannot do this, I cannot convincingly answer in 280, I need almost 3,500 patients if I want to use that as the end point. So when you see a result like this, you must see whether it is statistically significant as well before you take the standard on this. Microbiologically, you would expect if you use light, you can kill the organisms quicker. Doesn't work that way. So the finding of this is there's no evidence of cross-linking versus sham. Remember, there was a publication which said you don't even need to use antibiotics. So this is where you need to apply your mind before you come to a belief. So that was about the first study, and I promised to everybody that I will not do more than 2 studies. So first study is over. Second study. The second study is the in thing, Rose Bengal. Rose Bengal activated photodynamic antimicrobial therapy for fungal keratitis. And we named this study as Reagir, not Mutt, Scut or Putt, but we named it slightly modern. We modernized it to Reagir, and this is what is the expansion of Reagir. It actually, this work was started by Dr. Amesco and Dr. Perel. Dr. Perel passed away at the age of 95 last week. And till that time, he used to come to work at 6 a.m., 1 hour before you guys. 6 a.m. every day to his lab at the age of 95. And he passed away last week. But what they said was very nice conclusion. And I want you to, there will be 3 slides before I come back to this slide. So what they said is RBPDAT can be considered as an adjunct therapy for infective keratitis. That is what they postulated. And I want you to keep this statement in mind. So we wanted to find out whether that statement is true. So we did 330 patients. So they did like 20s, 30s, and we did 330 patients. We randomized to 2 groups. Everybody got an antifungal, and 1 group got an RBPDT. So the best outcome was best corrected visual acuity. And this is the methodology, don't bother. Bhupesh does it here. Many people do it. So this is the methodology for this arm. So this is an added arm, and then it's an added procedure. But then for getting those 330 patients to fit into the inclusion criteria, I needed to screen 1,342 patients, and that comes to my next R, rigorous. You need to be very, very, very rigorous when you plan something. If you are given 2 years to do a study, take at least 6 months to plan your study. Don't start next Friday. Always take some time to plan so that you can execute it much better. So you need to have so much of rigorosity to get to that kind of numbers. Predominantly fungus, little bit of acanthamoeba. These are the results. Now we are slightly contradicting from Dr. Parel and Dr. Ameska. We are saying no difference, no evidence for a benefit. Why there is no evidence? And then this is where the catch is. The catch is there is a difference between Fusarium and Aspergillus for this study. Fusarium had better vision, while Aspergillus had worse vision. And Aspergillus ulcers randomized to RBPDT had 4.67 times the hazard of perforation within fungus. Now I once again unable to demonstrate a benefit of Rose Bengal when you are actually doing a Rose Bengal study. Some evidence of interaction between fungal organism and treatment arm which indicate that Fusarium ulcers may benefit than Aspergillus ulcer. I went back to this study which prompted me to initiate the Rose Bengal study. There was no Aspergillus included in the study. So I couldn't have guessed it at all that was a limiting factor. And when I did a study and I found out that it is not matching well with that finding, go back once more and see the inclusion criteria. There were no Aspergillus at all in that study. And that was also similar to the findings from Bhupesh, who did his presentations here. He also said all Fusarium cases resolved and all Aspergillus cases worsened. So I've been repeatedly talking about the difference between Aspergillus and Fusarium. Is this the time to consider different treatment strategies between Fusarium and Aspergillus? We know that there is a difference between gram-positive and gram-negative. But for fungus, we always say it's fungus. But probably not. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind. Then I went back to our own publication from our department, starting from 2003, 2006. From our microbiology department, we had published a paper in ophthalmology which clearly said Aspergillus ulcers had an increased risk of perforation, worse visual acuity at 3 months as compared to Fusarium keratitis. And again, you're now going to see the same thing like what you saw in the SCUT study, isolated case reports of a wonder drug. And see just the last line. Don't worry about the front line. Infection resolved, infection resolved, infection resolved. This is the advent of voriconazole. And then was the only drug to which 100% was responsive and other things. And so this is very important. They did amongst the Cornea Society members, they gave a choice, if given a choice, whether would you use Aspergillus or Fusarium. And they all said, would you use voriconazole or natamycin? And voriconazole was the most preferred and ideal treatment. So we did this study, and to put very things in short, what we found was very surprising. I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought voriconazole was going to beat natamycin very, very, very easily because you had historic data. This is a modern medicine. Natamycin was discovered in 1960s, while voriconazole was discovered in 1990s. So you would expect the newer drug to work better. It was not so. Natamycin was better than voriconazole. And see the things in blue I put for all organisms. But in Fusarium cases, natamycin much better, 4 lines of visual acuity, while in non-Fusarium cases, almost similar. So when you see something saying fungal ulcers, go deeper and find out, is there a difference between organisms and non-organisms? Why was this MUT study very popular? Around this time, there were so many RCTs, and just see the last column, no significant difference till MUT study came in. This was the first study where we proved, in fact, we were asked to stop. This was an NIH R01 grant. We were asked to stop by the DSMC. I got a call at early morning from Washington asking me to stop the study because the end result had been reached. We did not finish the study. Almost 23 cases before we were asked to stop. because the Data Safety Monitoring Committee was actually reviewing this reviewing the study in real life. And this is a very important paper which came out of L.V. Prasad. Just like me, I'm sure I didn't believe that natamycin was a better drug. Savitri madam, who has taught me, by the way, undergraduate microbiology. When I was in my third year, she actually worked at Aravind Madurai, and I learned undergraduate My mother used to send me and Dr. Kalpana to Dr. Savitri to learn so that we won't fail in the microbiology exam. So Dr. Savitri was my undergraduate microbiology teacher who came here, set up the lab at L.V. Prasad. She said reappraisal. The study was, it's almost saying, Dr. Prajna did the study, something is fishy, let me reappraise. And that got published in BJO and says, again, when compared with voriconazole, natamycin was effective. And we come to the most important thing in your study. It actually doesn't mean anything that you alone can do that study. It has to, if you do it rigorously, and if somebody else wants to repeat that study in a different setting, if you get the same result, then you stand vindicated. Otherwise, it doesn't make good sense to others. What is the impact of these studies, especially the MUT study? So at that point of time in the UK, in the NHS, they did not have natamycin. They had voriconazole. They did not have natamycin, and natamycin was being imported from Canada. Based on a study out of Madurai, the NHS issued a directive based on the suggestions of Moorfields that natamycin henceforth would be the preferred treatment of choice for filamentous fungal keratitis. So you were able to influence not the Indian treatment. I was not able to change the ICMR protocol though, but I could change the NHS protocol, which they really follow it up and then changed it, so that from then on it was such a proud moment. And I used to, my uncle, Dr. Venkatesh, was not alive at that time. He would have been very proud. For him, Moorfields was everything. And at that point of time, he used to talk very highly about Moorfields. And if I had told them that Moorfields changed the treatment practice pattern based on Madurai, he would have been very happy. But unfortunately, he was not alive during this time. I come back to my first slide. I come to the last of my presentations, 4 or 5 slides. Looks like a person reading, but actually these are just isolated rocks. When you see from a distance, the meaning is different. But when you actually go closer, they are not, this is not a scholar sitting in the water and reading, but it's just a perception. It is a perception, and you need to you need to go closer and closer to understand, to know whether it's real or it is just a visual gimmick. So you need to be this thing. And you need to be very, very, very wary of senior professors like me. So this was a comment made by chairman of IBM in 1943. He said, computer is good, but I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. So the computers were looking like this. When the computers were looking like this, the chairman of IBM could not fathom at that responsible level that the computer was going to go somewhere else. So none of your professors know what is going to happen 10 years from now. I'm really sorry for the first benchers here, but I've made a very provocative statement for the postgraduates. It's up to you guys to actually do something and find out, have an open mind about doing research. Then you can find out whether these words were very true or not. Alexander Graham Bell, very excitedly when he invented the telephone, went to the President of the United States, Rutherford Hayes, and showed him the telephone. And the President, being very polite, says, this is an amazing invention, but whoever would want to use it? The President of the United States. So, of course, when the President of the United States tells like that, nobody's going to question him. But that is what people of eminence can tell you. But you need evidence, and you need a lot more time for you to have a very, very clear mindset before you understand things. Just because you don't find anything in your study, it doesn't mean that is not there. So this is another important thing you need to understand. Just because you can't find it, it doesn't mean that it is not there. Maybe you need to be more focused. Maybe you need to change the methodology. Maybe you need to change your direction, and then you can get the result. So absence of evidence is not an evidence of absence. And this is also important. You cannot be reasonably okay when you want to make a publication, because once you make a publication in top journals, people are going to watch you, and if they respect you, they are going to follow you. And so it's your responsibility to do quality research and also publish it very responsibly. Sometimes it cannot be a very dramatic statement. You cannot make a dramatic statement. But if you write your finding, somebody else may interpret it differently, and then take it forward from there. That is how science progresses. I cannot find out a solution for everything. So this was my topic given to me. In fact, I gave the topic eminence versus evidence, but Mahavir said you have to be more specific. I liked it. I thought I was the more rigorous scientist, but Mahavir says this is a very vague statement. And he gave me 4 options. I don't know whether he saw AI and gave the 4 options. And I chose this topic. The small one was chosen based on Mahavir's advice. So interpreting the gray zones in clinical practice, it's also sounded scholarly. So I said I will have that in place. And so what actually it fell in place when he sent this. I tried to answer this question and formulated my research for answering this question, but I ended up actually finding a completely different answer, which is a very, very, very important answer. 50 years from now, people will laugh at us by the way we have treated our ulcers so far. And so different fungi respond to different treatment modalities, and within the fungi, they are going to have different virulence pattern. My favorite slide, which I don't have it, is I always put Mahatma Gandhi slide and Hitler slide and said both are Homo sapiens. That doesn't mean their virulence factor is the same. So you can't actually equate everything, because the way we are being taught is too simplistic. It's too simplistic, and you, as a researcher, as a futuristic researcher, have to question it first, and then look at this thing. Don't ever, your gut feeling should be the last feeling. Your brain feeling should be the main feeling. So that should be the way you actually do research. So an evidence-based research helps develop protocols. It reduces costs. You don't want to include multiple medicines. It reduces costs. It optimizes treatment, and more importantly, it builds up ideas for the future. I'm sure one of you sitting in this audience would take up this idea of different fungi respond to different antifungal drugs and take it forward and establish a completely different treatment paradigm for the years to come. So once again, I would like to thank all of you for being with me for this meeting, and once again, thank you very much for the Tibrewala family for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
So I have a few confessions to make. I'm not a professor, and I thank you so much for quite enlightening oration. Very timely when we are bombarded with so much of information, and to use the brain and not just go by the gut feeling, and we may just end up believing what we see and not really doing the right thing. Eminence versus evidence, the art, 5 hours, and chance can happen again. So it's not necessary we If one time we miss out, it's all time will be missed out. So quite enlightening. Thank you so much for delivering the late Pushkarlalji Omprakashji Tibrewala Award. Thank you so much. Thank you for the family for staying with us. Thank you for all the attentive students and all the staff and guests who have joined us. I also like to thank all our communication team, AV team, and housekeeping team for just helping out through the whole event today. And as we conclude, let's have a great evening. Thank you so much.